Good morning. It's Lucia, Meraki Pharmacy. Thanks for being here. We're gonna just have another real talk, another follow up. One, thank you for taking time to connect, to share, to listen, to learn, to unlearn, to give feedback. It was the first time. So the most recent video that I posted was my invitation for white folks who are in the community of healers, teachers, guides, and all these labels and words and personas and whatever, to show up in deep and meaningful ways to address racism in deep, meaningful ways, which can look like a lot of things. But some folks left, but new friends came in. So like we just swapped out, which is great. And like the innate rebel that lives inside of me is like delighted that that my raw, real, transparent, authentic opinion and really struck a chord with some people on like various spots in the spectrum. I enjoy seeing the effect that my words have, usually in a really positive way. I'm going to invite those people back, of course. Like, whenever you're ready, just study real hard and then come back. I think the main thing I want to stress, I want to also remind you, if you don't feel like going back and watching that video, that's fine, whatever, make your choices. What we're talking about is accountability. What we're talking about is integrity. What we're talking about is walking the walk, talking the talk. There are a lot of things that seem romantic and trendy, and yeah, it's all through the lens of social media. There are, like, to me personally and professionally, there are a few things as important as honesty, transparency, and integrity. That's just those are what I value a lot, and I am not a master of much, okay, and those are things that I am continuously learning, relearning, unlearning about. I am very much neck deep in my own practices of not just like being a self-actualized human, but like thinking about my thought patterns, thinking about a lot of social conditioning, a lot of like residual, far-reaching, deep effects of a significant trauma history. You know, that this mouth is, yes, I'm articulate, and thank you for noticing and complimenting me. I do damage with this mouth. Like, stupid shit falls out of my mouth often. And that is work that I do. I know I'm abrasive. I know I'm not super diplomatic all the time. And, yeah, like, I'm doing my work, too. My therapist loves me. I show up with my homework completed in pencil because I gotta adjust. That's really it's a bigger picture of like, in order to show up in the world, like, these aren't mutually exclusive things, but like, the more internal work you do, the more you take the time and prioritize your becoming your best self in really, really deep ways that really, I think, again, in my personal and professional opinion, absolutely 100% require dedicated, consistent time to tune out from the world and go into your mind and your body. And that's really hard for a lot of people. That is like not a social, that's not like an American practice, obviously. We don't want to do that as a culture. Like, why would we do that? And like, we're just like given distraction and avoidance, like on silver platters all the fucking time. Yes, like, I call it the work. It's a capital T and a capital W because it requires a lot of effort. And it requires a willingness and a diligence and a discipline to be uncomfortable. Often. This is, I don't know, this is, again, this is my perspective of these things. The great part about when you develop these things. Okay, so what's happening? Why is this really hard for some people to do? It's not like it's not part of our culture. To meditate or be mindful, or there's multiple different ways, modalities, tools, approaches to do this. And it's important to study the philosophies and cultures and perspectives that are teaching about this, right? For thousands of years. I know that it's hard to do, and it's particularly hard to do when you are disconnected from your body. And I think that's prevalent in our society for a couple different reasons. One, there's a lot of shaming of bodies in our culture, which is a part of white supremacy and is a part of heteropatriarchy, and is a part of capitalism, right? If you are told certain things over and over again, subtly in advertising, explicitly in advertising, in cultural norms, in, Aunt Karen commenting on your weight, even how women talk to women, you look great. Yo, I don't want to deviate too far into this, but I gotta get my body back after pregnancy. Was it stolen? What is that? It's hard to go in here when it doesn't feel safe in here. I know this. And I know this because, yeah, I'm a fighter, I'm full of fire, but my default setting, set 30 years ago, maybe, as a response to stressful, scary, terrifying, neglectful, abusive, traumatic situations, is flight. I'm a fighter. I fucking run. And I run in all sorts of different ways. And that can look a lot of different ways for a lot of different people. I'm going to speak about my personal experience. Dissociating. So it was about 3 or 4 years ago that I realized I was in a body. I had a physical experience that I am in a body. And that has changed my life. If you have chronic illness, chronic trauma, chronic stress, if you have PTSD, CPTSD, I highly, highly, highly recommend the therapeutic modality that is called somatic experiencing. And not that there's ever one answer to our healing. It's not linear. Not all the things are going to work for all the people. That's the journey. That's the radness of being driven, being responsible, taking ownership of your experience, even though it's not your fault what has happened. And it really, really sucks. There's nothing you ever did to experience that trauma, but it's still our responsibility to deal with it. We have to own it if we want to be free, and if we want to get back to who we really are, and if we want to reclaim our body. And it's really hard to do the mental activity and the heart activity and the introspection and the exploring of the self when you're not contained in your body, when you can't hear your body because you were taught by the shitty shit and the shitty people and the shitty society that your body is not safe and your body's not sacred. So when I invite you to dive in to yourself, your psyche, to listen to your body, I want you to know that I 1000% understand how difficult that is and how that's a very daunting process. And it's really important to do that with guides. And again, I highly recommend somatic experiencing. If you're in the southeastern Vermont area, I cannot recommend Lisa Newell enough. And I will put her website below. That all being said, maybe you know of what I'm speaking, right? That your body, like, oh wow, like, yeah, like, it's hard to be in here. I want to expand from that place. Maybe you know of what I speak. I'm sorry that you do. I know how hard it is. It's a violation of your birthrights. It's really not okay. And I do know. And because I know, I have like an acute awareness and compassion and care for you. Absolutely. Now, if you are white and you know what I'm talking about, or white passing, whatever, I want you to think about your personal experience with this and relate it to what the reality must be like, right? Because I am not black. I'm not a person of color. I am not indigenous to this continent. And I will never, ever know what it's like. I won't. I can't. We can't. Which is why it requires us to spend a lot of time and effort and energy and introspection and imagination to think about that reality. It's also imperative that we listen to the stories of Black people and people of color, especially now. Especially now. It's really, really important to use all parts of your being to explore the reality for people. The people who deserve our work. Imagine that sense of lack of safety that you feel in your body, in your relationships, in your workplace, maybe because of sexism, in your community, maybe because of homophobia. Now, I want you to, so you're having that personal experience. Now expand that out, okay? And imagine, and maybe this is going to get hard. So if you're not grounded, maybe come back to this another time. But I want you, I am inviting you to take time to really imagine what it's like to be taught from day one that you are not okay in your body, that you are not safe in your body, that your body is highly disposable, that your body and your being and your family and your life and your dreams and your goals are not as important as other people's because of the melanin content of your body. I want you to imagine what it's like to wake up every single day and not have freedom of choice on where you can go, what jobs you can have, literally where you can go. Literally, stores, states, places that you can't go because there's an increased likelihood that you are going to experience violence, emotional, mental, spiritual, physical violence because of your body. Imagine that this is an everyday reality. Imagine, I want you to, again, if this is hard, please take care of yourself. Imagine the loss of a friend or a loved one. Whether it was not natural causes, elders. Have you ever known someone who was murdered? Murdered. Now imagine that almost on a daily basis, someone in your community is killed in a normalized way. Imagine how much grief and rage and a sense of hopelessness that must come with that. Imagine that that is the history of your people in America for hundreds of years. Since your people came here, were brought here, were stolen and sold here. We're here and we're decimated. This is the reality for millions of people. Here, in your neighborhood, in your county, in your state, in your country. Imagine every time you see a police car or law enforcement, there is high danger for you. Imagine being limited in educational opportunities, occupational opportunities, housing, class mobility, because of a system, because of a fucked up thought process that has been manifested in physical form for hundreds of years and is the cornerstone of where you live. Once you've taken the time to do that, I am willing to bet you are going to have absolutely nothing to say about how people of color and black people and allies, what they do with all of those feelings and all of those thoughts and all of those demands for just the right to fucking exist. Burn the motherfucker down. We don't get to have an opinion about what other people, black people, people of color, we don't get to have an opinion on how they process the grief and the rage and the injustice and the awful. We don't get to have an opinion. Who the fuck are we to have an opinion? You want to get philosophical on like nonviolence and civil disobedience? That's fine. Now is not the time. Violence scares you? It scares me too. I want to be out protesting. I do. You know what? I don't know if my body can handle that. And that's fucked up because we're not then expecting black people to continue to do the work to dismantle a system that fucking hates them and is built on destroying them. If you're white, and you're like, I can go to a protest. I've done it. I'm learning about it. I'm connected with people. I can go out and do this. Then go do it. Absolutely go do it. I want to see way more white folk on those front lines. Other ways you can support is 1, don't fucking judge. 2, donate money. I know, scarcity. I don't care. $5. Imagine if 200 people, I think there's like 500 people who follow. What if you all sent $5 to bail money to any of the hundreds, probably thousands of organizations that support social justice, specifically for people of color, black people, indigenous people, black people, people of color. You can also make donations of supplies. There's so many different ways that you can show up and support tangible action right now and beyond until this is burned down to the ground, until this is dismantled, until this is history, no longer repeated. Other ways that you can support is use your power and your platform and everything wisely, generously. Learn, stop and listen, actively listen, read the books, watch the films and movies, go there. lose yourself in the representation of the experience that people of color and Black people are having and have been having in America. Question how blindly or how like whole beingly maybe you buy into the external authorities of this country, and check to see if it's in alignment with your values. And if you're hitting resistance, check, what are you really afraid of? Are you afraid of being responsible for your own life? Do these things. It is mining for gold. It changes the world, and it is mandatory here on Earth School. Thank you very much for your time. I hope that does something for anybody. And I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you caring, and I do. And I care about you very, very, very much. And I care about what we're doing very, very much. Thank you so much. Till next time.